me. I'm Nicole. I'm from Ohio. I also will be going to law school in the fall. Did a lot of self-studying, and I actually used the LSAT Demon. I'm a big LSAT Demon fan as a tip, but my diagnostic was, my first time diagnostic was a 150, and I self-studied to a 171 on a flex test. And I am kind of a teacher by nature, so I truly love teaching. I used to teach kids how to read, so I think like if I can teach kids how to read or kids how to multiply fractions, like hopefully I can break down the LSAT in a way that's more understandable for everybody or more digestible. That's my ultimate goal, is not to, I think a lot of people overcomplicate everything on this test. And when you simplify it to like 4 or 5 key skills, you can make significant progress. So maybe if you're going to law school in the fall, maybe some of us will like actually end up going to law school together. Okay, so today we're going to talk about strength and weaken. Some of you have worked with me on strength and weaken questions before, and it might be a little bit of review, especially when we're talking about simplifying the approach and technique. And we're going to work on understanding the stimulus and predicting your answer. I know that this is something that Cora has made huge progress in. I know she's at work, so she can't talk right now, but she's made significant progress where she's now scoring 20 per section by really working on her approach. And then we're going to spend a lot of time thinking about how do we actually strengthen and weaken arguments. So there's 2 important things that we can do when we're studying. One is our time sections and really focusing on getting questions right. But I also think that we have to put ourselves in an environment where we give ourselves the space to actually learn. Sometimes we get so focused on our scores and getting questions right that we don't actually just sit and ponder, well, if I were to strengthen this or I'm going to weaken this, this is how I would go about doing it and what it would look like. The benefits of that is, while it might slow you down at the beginning, it makes you significantly faster after you've been practicing it for 3 or 4 weeks. And so I'm a big believer in slowing down to get faster. And then just best ways to review your wrong answer choices. Do a lot of people here do blind review? Everybody? Excellent.
Not enough.
Not enough. Yeah, I actually would second that for you, Zach. No offense.
What did you say?
Oh, I said Zach doesn't do blind review enough. I work with Zach,
Oh,
and so I
blind
was
review.
teasing
Okay.
him. I'm a big believer in blind review. Just an these are our upcoming classes. On Sunday, if you struggle with breaking down or understanding stimuluses, the Sunday class will be really great. There's Jasmine, the girl that I work with. She's offering a free RC class Sunday at 2. And then I think I have a reading comp class Monday night too that I just didn't put on here. And then an advanced flaws class Wednesday, December 2nd. So that will be level 4 and level 5 flaws. That one will be pretty intense. Just an FYI, I do offer a boot camp. If you like this class, like, you can totally reach out to ask more details about this. This is more structure. We go through all of the classes. There's a couple people here that are in the boot camp. This is probably best for people that are scoring like from beginning to scoring up to 165. Like if you're in that last 5 points to getting to 170, you probably need a little bit more specific attention rather than coming back and relearning all of the basics for each question type. But this is where the homework comes from. All right, so today we're talking about strengthen and weaken questions. So this is how I break up all the questions simply in between bottom up and top down. Kamani, can you explain the difference between bottom up and top down?
Yes. So bottom up, like you can bring outside information, like you're using outside information from the stimulus, like using the answers, and then top down, it's like you're staying between the lines of the stimulus with the answer choices.
Excellent. So she explained it beautifully. So bottom up is whenever we get to bring in new information from one of our answer choices to our stimulus. So these would be our strengthen and weaken questions that we're going to cover today. On these, and for people that struggle with sufficient assumption, these are our sufficient assumption questions too, which I just call super strengthen questions, but that's the class for a different day.
Question, Nicole.
Yes, Zach.
So like when you say outside information, it has to be outside information relative to what's in that answer choice, but like how
relevant to the goal of the question. Yes, so for strength, it's not just picking the strongest answer, but The reason that I clarify this is how many of us struggle with, well, why do I get to bring in new information in this question, but here I'm told that it was too strong or too mild or etc. Does anybody ever get that confliction?
I do. I do.
Yes. Or like, why do I get to use the word most in this answer choice, but I get to use the word some here?
Because it has to be the quantifier that's within the passage. You have to play with that one.
Depending on, yes, depending, but like for now, let's really focus on just what the question type is. So if it's a bottom up question, so our strength and questions, which we'll get to in a minute, we have a conclusion, we get to bring in new information that would help strengthen that conclusion. So obviously it has to be relevant to what this conclusion is. We can't just bring in something random, but we're bringing in something new that wasn't stated in the stimulus. Where we're not going to cover these today, but I love how Kamani said, this is what I said, stay between the lines. So our must be true or most strongly supported, our main conclusion questions. These are our bottom or our top down, where we're bringing something, we have to find an answer choice that is directly stated in the stimulus. So we don't get to bring in new information. So if they use the word some, here, we don't get to pick an answer choice that is talking about everybody. So these are these tend to be more mild or weaker answers, where these we want strong. Does anybody have any questions so far? Yes, Amara?
So in necessary assumption, don't we also bring outside information to make it like 100% something that's 100% necessary for the stimulus to be true?
Yeah, okay, you threw in a word in there that makes what you said correct, necessary, true, yes. But if it's 100% needed, necessary assumption in the simplest terms is almost like a must be true question, right? It's in the sense of, let me think of how to say this simply. It's needed
In the line.
sense where, so it's needed in the sense where without it, it would fall apart, but we don't bring in something too strong. So the example, what's the example I always give Taylor?
It's hot outside. We should get ice cream.
Yes, it's hot outside. So this is our premise. Therefore, we should get ice cream. The necessary assumption here is, do we need all people to like ice cream to have to go get it for this argument to be true? Do we need all people? Every single person? No. But is it necessary that at least one or some people like ice cream?
Yes, to make this statement correct.
Well, to even give it a chance, because if not at least one person likes ice cream, then our argument completely falls apart. So we're not bringing in something new to prove it. It's just based on that, based on this stimulus, what else is needed? So we have to really stay between the lines. Does that make sense, Amara?
Yes.
So it's just like a must be true question. Like what else must be true, or an inference question? Technically your answer might be a little different than something exactly stated in the passage, but you can specifically draw it based on what was said. You're not bringing in new information. You're like, okay, because this is said, I can conclude this. I'm staying between the lines. And that's how necessary assumption works as well.
So Nicole, necessary more chance to be guaranteed. Sufficient has to guarantee the conclusion.
Sufficient's a super strength, and sufficient 100% guarantees it, where necessary is just something that's needed. Without it, the argument would fall apart. So if I live in Ohio, therefore I hate Michigan, right? I live in Ohio, therefore I hate Michigan. What would be well, I don't want to get into sufficient assumptions, but it's necessary that I live in the United States, correct?
Not Ohio specifically?
Hold on. I live in Ohio, therefore I hate Michigan. There's many necessary assumptions here, but one would be that I live in the US, because if I don't live in the US, then I can't live in Ohio, right? So that's how that works. Where a sufficient assumption would be, all people that live in Ohio hate Michigan. If we added that, it would guarantee this conclusion for me, that I live in Ohio, therefore I hate Michigan. All right. So if you have a question, if you actually see on the bottom, do everybody see reactions at the bottom of your screen or reactions? Go ahead and just raise your hand there so that we can make sure that we don't have a bunch of breaking up. Does everybody see them? Cool. All right. So how do strengthen questions work, or what are the goal of a strengthen question? Who would like to answer this one?
Is to fill in the gap.
To fill in the gap. Yes. Anybody else want to add to that? Alicia, what do you think? I know you're good at strengthen questions.
Okay. To support the argument.
Yeah, the conclusion. So on our spectrum, sorry for people that have gone over this, I just think it's a really good visual. So if we have an argument, someone give me an argument. Anything, someone give me something funny for a Friday. Katie's here. Katie, give me something funny. She's like, I'm on the spot. Okay, how about this? He likes Harry Potter, therefore I will marry him. He looks like Harry Potter, therefore I will marry him. This is my conclusion or my argument. He looks like Harry Potter, therefore I will marry him. What's my premise?
He looks like Harry Potter.
He looks like Harry Potter. And what's my conclusion?
I will marry him.
Excellent. Is this a valid argument? I think it's a great argument in life. Potentially it's a great argument in life, but on the LSAT, is it a great argument? No. So let's say on my argument strength spectrum, I'm going to put it right here. And it's not terrible, but it's not great. So if I were going to strengthen this or strengthen questions, what we want to do is bring in something new that's going to help move my argument from here a little bit closer to being rock solid. This is my rock, by the way. We want to add something that's going to move it so it's closer to being rock solid. So everybody, I want you to think of a premise that would help me move my argument closer to the rock. He looks like Harry Potter, therefore I'm going to marry him. So everyone take 30 seconds and write that down or think about it in your head. All right, who wants to throw out what they came up with? Let's go ahead and shout them out.
It's always been my dream to marry someone that looks like Harry Potter.
Excellent. That would strengthen our argument, right? I said that he likes me. That was my way of adding to the argument.
Would saying you're the best person in the world at identifying doppelgangers be too strong?
But me identifying him as a doppelganger, does that mean I should marry him just because I can identify that he looks like him?
I probably have to throw some sort of marital thing in there.
Yeah, what else could we say? Maybe I really want to get married. Would that strengthen it? A little bit, right? I mean, it's not going to move us farther away. He looks like Harry Potter. I want to marry him. So do you see how we're adding in things here that get us closer to that?
Well, the answer that I had gotten was very close to Zach's that I thought. So I'm confused as to why that wouldn't be correct.
I'm really good at identifying doppelgangers. I mean, technically, I guess it would be strengthening the idea that he looks like Harry Potter, but my premise on the LSAT we have to accept is true. So if I say he looks like Harry Potter and that's a premise, we already know that. So why do I need to strengthen the idea that I'm good at identifying that?
Oh yeah, so we're strengthening the argument and this has nothing to do with the argument itself. Okay.
Yes, yeah, the argument is because he looks like Harry Potter, I should marry him. What does looking like Harry Potter have to do with getting married? Right, and that's what we want to strengthen of why is there a connection there? All right, so the approach to strengthen questions quickly is we want to read the stimulus first, understand it, be completely okay with going slow and understanding it and finding the conclusion. We want to figure out what's wrong with the argument. Why don't the premises prove it? So why does, the easy example is, he looks like Harry Potter, therefore I'm going to marry him. What's wrong with it? Well, what does looking like Harry Potter have to do with getting married? Nothing. And so then we want to predict an answer. So we, just like what we did there, we want to predict something that would strengthen it. And we already came up with our prediction. So we kind of see what that looks like. And then our answer choices, you want to assume that all 5 are true. So and then you just ask yourselves, does which answer choice brings us closer to that rock? So one thing that we really want to pay attention to here is stronger answers are often better. Why are stronger answers better?
Help us guarantee more.
But yeah, more likely to guarantee it. If I said that he looks like Harry Potter, therefore we should get married, is it stronger to say, well, I want to get married or I must get married? Which one makes it more likely that it has to come true?
I must get
I
married.
must get married. Or what about it's hot outside, therefore we should get ice cream? Is it stronger to say some people really like ice cream or all people love ice cream? Can we see the difference between those two answer choices? And this, paying attention to these small details is how we get quicker at this test, 100%. All right, a couple examples. Oh, one of my favorites. So how do we actually strengthen arguments in the LSAT world? Obviously, we're having some fun with coming up with some, but one way we can strengthen an argument is by denying an alternative possibility. I want everybody to think about this for 20, 30 seconds. What might this look like? How might we deny an alternative possibility in an argument? Or why might we want to do this?
I wasn't able to think of an example yet, but for denying an alternative possibility, that makes it so that the possibility brought in the stimulus or in the conclusion, it makes it more likely that that is the reason for
it to be, yes.
Yeah.
So if we said, he looks like Harry Potter, therefore we should get married, I could say, I don't want to marry anybody else. I'm denying all alternative possibilities of who I should marry. So it strengthens the idea that I should marry him, right? Did anybody else come up with a different example?
I came up with one.
All right, Zach, what do you have?
Said that I don't know. Is this more of like an answer choice, or because like I came up with like a scenario? Like I said, Pfizer says they have an unflawed vaccination, but no company, no pharmaceutical company has ever made an effective vaccine in 3 months' time. Like, because you're kind of like
okay. So how would you be strengthening it?
Strengthening that Pfizer says they have an unflawed vaccine, or the idea that no company has ever had one in 3 months' time.
I don't know. It's your example.
Yeah, I'd have to strengthen that no company's ever had one in 3 months' time. I had to be saying that Pfizer did it in less than 3 months' time.
But how would you be denying an alternative possibility? I think what you're thinking is you're almost weakening it. Why we're denying an alternative possibility is to strengthen the reason that we gave. So if we said, it's hot outside, therefore we should get ice cream, we could say, we don't like any other sweets. By saying no, all people do not like other sweets, we're denying an alternative possibility, which strengthens the idea that we should get ice cream. Thumbs up if you guys, do we get this one? And for those of you that are scoring more advanced, spending time talking about this is so important, because on the tough questions, you have to sometimes be able to recall this on the test where, okay, I don't know which one of these is doing this. Walk yourself through these and be like, am I doing any of these to strengthen it? That might be one that we're not as familiar with. B, promoting the evidence relevance to the conclusion. So this would be, he looks like Harry Potter, therefore we should get married. This would be promoting why looking like Harry Potter is relevant to me getting married. And so Katie's example here was brilliant, where it was like, I've always wanted to marry someone that looks like Harry Potter. By adding that premise in, I'm explaining why looking like Harry Potter matters when it comes to me getting married. It's hot outside, therefore we should get ice cream. Ice cream tastes better when it's hot. I'm explaining why when it's hot, even though it's common sense, why do we like ice cream when it's hot? I'm explaining, because we're not given that, why ice cream is relevant to that conclusion. Next one, supporting the evidence validity. So this one most often happens if you were to see a flaw, which all strengthen or weaken questions are flawed arguments, and maybe the flaw is that it's not a great sample size or it's biased. This would be bringing in something to explain, like, oh, we really don't have to worry about this. This was properly conducted, or it was repeated in a larger stance and it continued. This one isn't as popular of an answer choice. And then the last one is just simply providing additional evidence to support the conclusion. And that would be just anything that, this is probably the most common answer choice. And that was just like me bringing in the idea, I actually want to get married, or I'm ready, or I'm financially stable to get married. Like, it's not really connecting anything. It's just bringing in something new that's relevant to that argument. All right, so everyone, I want everybody to go ahead and try this question completely cold. We're not going to talk about it until you have an answer, but once you do have an answer, go ahead and put it in the chat. All right. What predictions did we have? I see Cora said, use the word only. Only REM has been scientifically proven to relieve the stress of life. Yeah. I don't think that's probably true, but it would definitely strengthen it.
Yeah, Nicole, we're trying to strengthen. I said in the beginning, like, we're not trying to strengthen the idea that people like deprived of REM sleep are irritable. We're trying to strengthen the sleep relieves the stresses of waking life. Not saying that if you take it away, then they're gonna go nuts. Like, it could be either or is what I'm saying.
People who experience dreams are.
If like A said, like, people deprived of REM definitely like are really stressed out. But like, are we looking for something that says these people get like a lot of REM, so like they're very happy? Like, which one are we looking for is my question.
I think either could strengthen it, but that would still be kind of leaning into the correlation that we kind of already have. So we want to bring in something different, but that wouldn't be wrong. What were you going to say, Amara?
I was going to say people who experience dreams have, no stress in waking life.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. So let's go ahead and look at these answer choices and go ahead and put your answer in the chat.
This may be a dumb question, but I've never done Zoom before. How do I kind of make it so like...
There is I love that you found the right answer, but there is a reason why C is wrong. It actually doesn't strengthen it. Does anybody?
Nicole is, sorry.
Oh, Mara, go for it.
Is C kind of confusing necessary and sufficient in a way, or?
You're using the wrong, like, you're thinking the right thing. Katie, what is it?
I took it as it's showing like reverse causation. So because you have stress, you can't have REM, as opposed to we're trying to say if you have REM, you have less stress.
Yes. Do we see this? We're trying to say that REM sleep is relieving the stress, but this is just saying that this is actually ironically, since we knew it was a causal flaw, a lot of people will pick C, but this is actually telling us that if you have more stress, the stress is causing you just to sleep less. So the opposite of this would be if you have more REM, you have less stress, but is that the fact that you have more REM that you have less stress just because, or sorry, not this. It would be if you have less stress, you have more REM, but that's just because the less stress is causing you to be able to dream. And then why is E our correct answer? Taylor?
I chose it because it's saying, okay, because they're showing that the conclusion is that REM sleep relieves the stress. And so here it's saying the ones that have shorter periods, so less REM, do have more stress.
Yeah, it's kind of showing
REM sleep
it's
is
that correlation. Because it's saying, okay, so if you don't have any REM, that means you're highly stressed. So 0 REM you're highly stressed. If you get a little bit of REM, wait, 0 REM, I don't really know how to do this. So you get half REM. This is where your stress level is. And maybe if you get a lot of REM, this is where your stress level is. So it's showing us, it's strengthening that correlation right here. Does that picture help at all?
Should we just also ignore the first 4 words of the answer choice?
No, that helps it. It's helping us say like, all factors being equal. So we're not saying like, well, what if why this helps? Because it's helping us say that it's not something else causing these two things to happen. So it's saying all other factors equal. This is the only thing that changed. So that really helps us strengthen it. All right, everybody, go ahead and try this one and put it in the chat. Wow.
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but yeah.
No, it's awesome. Well, can be awesome, I should say. So you can tell us, what was our conclusion?
The conclusion is that the document sealed in such a fashion must have been many times the number of remaining seals, lead seals.
Awesome. I struggled to kind of understand what this was talking about for a minute. Did anybody else? I was like, I didn't know what a lead seal was for a minute.
Sorry?
I didn't know what a lead seal, to be honest, I didn't know what a lead seal was for a minute, like until I got to like this part where I was like, oh, it's talking about like on a piece of paper.
Yeah,
so we're saying more than 40,000 lead seals from the early Byzantine Empire remain today. Okay, so there's more than 40,000. Apart from the rare cases where the seal authenticated a document of special importance, so more than half of those 40,000 or additional seals served their purpose just when the document was open. Lead wasn't expensive, okay, but it was not free. So most lead seals would have been recast once they had served their purpose. Cool. Okay, good. I thought someone else said, I didn't read land seal. I read like the seals in the military when I first read this. Like that's what I was.
Get your answer then. Maybe that's the reason I read it fast, because I knew what that meant.
I was like, what? I was like, lead seals. I was like thinking like leader seals. I don't know, like in the military. Like it's not right at all. But okay. So we're saying that it wasn't expensive, but it wasn't free either. So let's reuse them. Thus, the number of early B documents sealed in such a fashion must have had many times the number of remaining lead seals. So our conclusion is there must have been many, 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 many more documents. Well, maybe not that many, but there must have been more of those than the time of, and how many remaining lead seals do we have?
40,000.
So is that important?
Yeah.
So what I predicted this, did everybody else predict this? So what must be true about the number, knowing what we know so far, what would strengthen it that the number of early Byzantine documents, if there were more of those than the remaining seals, what do they need to have more of?
More lead seal, like more document usage per seal type of thing. Like, I don't know, I thought there would be like 120,000 lead seals then.
No, we know that there's 40,000 lead seals now, but what we're talking about, what specifically has to be true about the documents? What number of documents must there be?
40,001?
We're saying there's many more.
44,000, 45,000.
So there's like a key word in the premise, it's recast. So recasting.
That we're reusing it. Yes. Are you talking to Zach? Oh, yes. So why can't be? So really, what number? I came up with like, there must be like 1 million of these things, right? Did anybody else predict that? Like, I mean, that's a very strong prediction. But because how else do we know that there must have been many? So we're saying that the document sealed must have been many times the number of remaining lead seals. So those were used many, 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 many times. The seals, right? Because they were recast. So was it pretty easy for people to get to D?
I got C.
All right, so let's go through A. A, most of the lead seals produced during the time B empire was affixed to documents that were then opened during that period. Does it matter when they were opened? We're trying to prove that there were many more times. That doesn't matter. B, most of the lead seals produced during the early B empire was affixed to documents that have since been destroyed. Well, do we even have the number of documents that, like, we don't know how many there are now and how many have been destroyed. So that doesn't help us at all. What if there were 10? Oh, and this is in the lead seals too. So if most of the lead seals produced during this time have since been destroyed, that would mean there's like more than 80,000 lead seals. So that's like, that actually makes it harder to prove. C, the amount of lead available for seals in the early B empire was much greater than the amount of lead that remains in the seals today. Do we care about the amount of lead? But the seal, we're talking about numbers of lead, not actually the ingredient in the seal itself. D, during the time of the early B empire, there were at most 40,000 documents of enough importance to prevent the removing and recycling of seals. Why does this one work? Because it wasn't what I was necessarily predicting, but it works if you really understood the stimulus.
Shows that there was more than 40,000 that they had to deal with.
Not quite. Katie?
So we know that if the document's important, they're not going to reuse the seal. So that means that at most 40,000. So there's not 41,000 documents where the seal wasn't destroyed, which means then that there has to be a surplus of documents that needed a seal to get removed.
Excellent. It says only on rare cases were the seals were not reused. So it was like that. It was so much important that they didn't recycle it. And so if that's 40,000, and that's just rare cases, but mass majority, so whatever, I don't know, 40,000, if that's the rare number, I don't know what most would be, but that's showing us just how many seals there probably are that were being recycled. And then E, during the time of the early B empire, there were fewer than 40,000 seals affixed to documents at any given time. Well, we don't know what that, like, how do we know that they're being reused or not being reused? And at any given time, like, what if that just doesn't really help us. Do people see, like,
opposite of D?
what?
Is that the opposite of D?
No, that's just the number of seals that were just on a document at any given time. So any given time, there were 40,000.
This one was tough because some of them were talking about lead, some of them were talking about the seals. And
it took you definitely understanding really going slow on the stimulus and understanding what you were reading. All right, so we're going to transition to weekend now. I'm going to